would love to get your thoughts. Send them to us via WhatsApp 0809 444 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth981. You can catch the live stream and even post a comment on there as well. Our analyst this morning is AB Bozimo, who's looking like my twin. Good morning, AB, and welcome.
Good morning, Zibby. I worry about the big sister camera you must have on me, but it's great to be here. And happy Salah to everyone listening. We thank God for his mercies and graces.
All right, welcome.
And so let's pick up the papers and see what it's looking like this morning. Well, we're back, it seems, after maybe the public holidays, back to the trenches, but let's go on. The Vanguard newspaper screams with the headline, "Withheld salaries. We have been pushed to the wall. Sanu Nasu Nat tells federal government." How did we get back in this circle once again? Kicking the can down the road?
You know, this is a story of profound contrasts. There was a time in 2022 when both ASU, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, and the various non-academic staff went on strike. ASU actually went on strike for 8 months on record, and the non-academic staff maybe started 3 months later and went on strike for 5 odd months. Since then, various conversations have gone on, negotiations have gone on, and the president said people should be paid. They agreed to pay half of the ASU, withheld salaries, and so out of 8 months, they paid 4. But the non-academic staff are saying that despite all kinds of assurances from the National Assembly to intervene and all that, they have not been paid. It's unfortunate because they correctly say that the university is a system that cannot fly on solely the academic staff. Think about it. You have the bursary, you have people in the health sector, you have sanitation, you have many other facilities that make a university function. You cannot enter lecture halls that are filled with trash and rubbish. You cannot go through quadrangles that are overgrown with grass. Think about, those are just some overt and obvious examples. The university community works when everybody is treated harmoniously and fairly. So they are saying, despite the assurances from the National Assembly, despite the directives from the president, they have not been paid. And they're getting to a point where their patience is running out. This is it. I feel quite bad because we know that the National Assembly can act speedily when it chooses to do so. Take, for example, the passing of the old to the new, what's that song called? The
National anthem?
National anthem. It happened in 15 seconds, metaphorically. Then they promised the non-academic staff, and nothing has really happened. It's also indicative of the fact that education as a whole is not being taken seriously at all in the country. And how will it be? Because many of the people who are in charge of this have their children in foreign countries with standardized curriculums, good timing between the start and the end of their school year, and all sorts of facilities provided. It's wrong and almost indicative of policy chaos and administrative malaise in the current administration. I'm talking not just the presidency, but the National Assembly and everyone else. So I think this is a warning. This gives an opportunity for this to be addressed to stave off a potential strike. The question now is, will the necessary authorities act before such a strike is called, or will they wait in that standard, what I consider to be silly brinkmanship, where it is the night before a strike is called that they will finally act? I think that is such a waste of mental and national time and resources. So government, act now, address this issue, pay them what they are due, and let the university system keep running.
All right, thank you, AB. Let's move on to the next headline, and this one is coming from a Daily Trust. The Sultan of Sokoto has called on governments at all levels to do more to address the current hardship in the country.
Yes, this is in line, there is a Salah holiday. In a Salah sermon, he urged governments to do more to deal with the challenges Nigerians are grappling. One thing he spoke of that was very important is the security issue, because almost nothing else can occur in an atmosphere of insecurity. And that especially applies to agriculture. No farmers want to repeat the situation that happened in Borno a few years ago when 93 farmers were decapitated when they went farming. No farmers want to lose all their crops. It's really important. He asked Nigerians to be peace-loving and patriotic. I actually have not seen a population on the surface of Earth that is more peace-loving than Nigerians. Because considering what Nigerians are going through, they could have been excused for being rowdy, but Nigerians have been patient with the leadership. What seems to be lacking is a connection between those who are leading and the pains and problems. Despite all the president speaks about him feeling the pains of Nigerians, at the end of the day, a couple of days ago, we heard that that same National Assembly that cannot deal with the non-academic staff union said 2 new aeroplanes should be bought, one for the president and one for the vice president, who, by the way, the latter is living in a brand new 21 billion naira house. So it seems as if those in office are completely disconnected from what ordinary Nigerians are going through. Yes, government should do more. What should government do? I think government should, first of all, show that they too are making sacrifices in these times. It is obscene to hear that one person gets built a brand new 21 billion naira house when his predecessor was not living underneath a bridge. And I'm talking about the vice president of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima. It is ridiculous that we have a fleet of maybe 8, maybe 12 planes, and the same National Assembly that cannot act is saying, or a committee of the National Assembly is saying they should buy 2 brand new planes. These just seem like literally putting fingers in the eyes of suffering Nigerians. It does not suggest that they are willing to make any of the sacrifices they are asking the Nigerians to make. And it is inconceivable that you would expect us, or speaking for myself, me, to feel good about it. Maybe some people feel great. Oh, yes, they should spend all that money. I think money could be better directed.
So, Ebi, in addition to what the Sultan asking the leaders to do what they can to alleviate the suffering of the people, it also seems that it's a two-way thing, because he's also in the process asking for supporting and praying for leaders. But is it for a want of praying and supporting our leaders that we are where we are right now, or our prayers are not really hitting heavens right now?
As far as I'm concerned, I don't care to pray for any leader. I want to hold my leaders accountable. It is inconceivable that a leader who sees me going through what I'm going through will build a new house for 21 billion naira. I am an architect. I have an idea of the components it takes to build a house. There is nothing on the surface of planet Earth that should make one person's residence cost 21 billion naira in the current context of Nigeria's economic challenges. So I'm not against him. He is a spiritual leader. Of course, it is his mean to say, pray for the leaders. That is not my call. I want my leaders to be accountable to Nigerians.
All right, let's look at a message coming through. This is from Dan Okuda, and he says, political leaders are in the habit of admonishing ordinary Nigerians to practice love and peace during festive periods like this, but they hardly practice what they preach by their actions. They need to put their sermons into action. All right, keep the messages coming. 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp number.
And that's enough time to get us to the stand of the Punch newspaper, where the headline screams, President Tinubu, government tackling economic crisis. Presidency replies, New York Times report. That's from the Punch.
Apparently, there was a New York Times report that criticized the Nigerian economy as facing the worst trajectory in a generation. Where's the lie? Of course, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, responded to the report. He said, this reflects the typical predetermined, reductionist, derogatory, and denigrating way foreign media establishments have reported on African countries for decades. I find that really interesting that these same foreign media live in a country where we go cap in hand, squealing and begging for loans. Do they think that those countries where we are begging for the loans that we I think Friday we announced a brand new set of loans for
2.5 billion US dollars World Bank.
dollars or so. Do they understand that there are roads that connect the banks, the World Bank and IMF, with the newspaper houses? Or do they think these people live in some kind of silos, the way Nigerian leaders live in a silo as compared with the Nigerian populace? So you are accusing them of, but you never said that they were wrong. You just said that the reporting based on several interviews is jaundiced, portraying all gloom and doom without mentioning the positive aspects of the economy or the ameliorating policies. What are these ameliorating policies that even the the Sultan said do more? Is it because it is the New York Times? You can ask a child eating ice cream what life is like in Nigeria now, and they will tell you it's bad because the ice cream that their parents used to buy for them is no longer available. So you don't need to hear it from the New York Times. This is, to me, one of those things where we would have just kept quiet, buckled down, and done better. We keep hearing we shall, until it comes out, nobody cares. And I assert and I agree that this is the worst economic crisis in a generation. Then the last sentence irks me. Onanuga emphasized that Tinubu did not create the economic problems Nigeria faces today, but inherited them. I don't care. You are the president. Blame game because you cannot blame the former administration because you, the president, you were a key factor in getting him in office. Now you just want to blame who or what. You inherited the problems. You solved them. We don't care. I don't care that he did not create them. It's irrelevant to me. Certainly, by getting 47 ministers and giving each of them 4 SUVs, and thereby increasing the bureaucracy in Nigeria, you have certainly added to the problem, because the American government that you are blaming, or the media in the American country that you're blaming, has only 15 ministers to administer 330 million people. We have 220 odd million and we have 48 ministers. What a waste of resources. What a misplacement of priorities. What an indication that you do not know what you are doing if you cannot manage the country. And even with those ministers, how many can anybody get up and identify without using Google in Nigeria? I.e., how many of them are actually making an impact to make Nigerians' lives better? I would argue very few, less than 3%.
Let's look at some of the messages coming through. Linda from Yaba says, will the vice president's new house be his for keeps or passed on to subsequent vice presidents? And what happened to the former vice president's home and all the vehicles and property political leaders are acquiring and have acquired in the past with taxpayers' money? Idima Puza says, I wish the way Mr. President is calling for citizens to give in a sacrifice during this season, they too in government should give and sacrifice in giving good governance and dividends of democracy to citizens, instead of the hardship that many are going through. Sacrifice should not be mere paying of lip service. Joseph Menu says, the presidency didn't speak well, as the reality itself is the politicians versus the citizens, where the citizens are at the receiving end of bad and poor economic policies, which have further impoverished them. Inflation, unemployment, insecurity, etc. While the elite and the politicians are going on subsidized pilgrimages, sharing funds and living extravagant lifestyles, unnecessary renovations of homes and offices of public office holders. It's pitiful and rather wicked. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth and 98.1. Stay with us. The conversation continues shortly. When is that result coming out? The assessments of the ministers, when is it coming out?
I never already now. But I think there should be the need for a cabinet reshuffle somewhere along the line. But I don't know how soon.
Accented by a C sharp. When you talk, the cadence of your voice is a tenor saxophone, making love to a cello at perfect pitch. You are so smooth. That's why we keep it here on 98.1. This is Justin Ije, signing.
Abashi, bring us in.
We're Smooth 98.1 FM, and we've still got the papers here. We've got the analysts here. It's freshly pressed. We expect to get your contributions this morning, reacting to the news headlines this morning from the newspapers onto 0809 444 0981. You can also race down to youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave your comments there. We're sure to get them across shortly. But let's go on now to draw in this paper. The Premium Times newspaper is what we're looking at, AB next. Army to deploy new 5,937 soldiers to fight banditry, secessionist agitation, others. That's according to the Chief of Army Staff.
Yes, he was speaking at the recent passing out of the latest set of Army recruits who have just been trained. And he talked about how training is a continuous process in the military. And he said the Nigerian Army has put in place various post-depot training packages to help soldiers master the array of weapons and equipment. Many people really, because of our sometimes negative interaction with the Army, don't appreciate just how professional a job it is, how it is very technical. As a matter of fact, the Army Corps of Engineers in the United States built the interstate system of highways across the entire. So engineers in the military are really top notch. A lot of developments are done in the military that later on get, broken down into civilian life. Military is a way of life. It's highly honorable. And think about it, to put your life down for the service of your country is one of the highest things you can do. And Mr. Lagbaja said so. Now, he said that there was one thing he said that kind of caused it. He said that according to them, they will train them more to become more efficient in the art of war. I'm setting that side by side with what he said that this new set of people are going to do. Fight insecurity, fight banditry, cattle rustling, and related crimes. Is the Nigerian Army really supposed to be training to fight cattle rustling? I find that really strange. Isn't the Army supposed to be dealing with our border security, keeping us safe from enemies without? We have a problem in the country where the soldiers, who should be, if you want to say, slightly on a different level. I mean, because the police are the ones who are supposed to be my friend every day. I should see them. I should be happy to run to them to report issues. We should have our soldiers ready, battle ready for real issues, not cattle rustling, for goodness sake. That shouldn't be one of the roles of the. I'm happy he didn't say farmer herders clash, because I've always asserted that there's no such thing. There is trespass by cattle rearers into fixed property at farms. It's called simple trespass, and it should have a simple solution. But leave that aside. So first of all, kudos to all those who passed out. They have entered a phase of their lives where their lives may be laid down for ordinary people like me, who don't have the capacity, the ability, the talent, or the training to do what they do. I doff my hat to all people in the military and other security services whose lives could be gone in an instant while they're trying to save me. But please, let us make sure that they are doing what they are constitutionally supposed to do. And I do not think that should include cattle, protecting against cattle rustling. Let us empower and train the police to do such civilian things within the borders of Nigeria. and reserve our soldiers for doing what they are amply best able to do, which is defend the nation. But kudos to all of them. And when you see a soldier or a policeman out there, show them love. They're doing a job none of the rest of us can possibly do.
Just before we let this paper go to bed now, let's pick up, there's just a quote from the Chief of Army Staff here, where he talks about sacrifice to go wherever you are ordered to, by land, sea, or air. Sacrifice to relegate personal comfort and assume duty to country as primary concern. Reminds me of the words of the great Winston Churchill back in the days, wartime charge, when he was addressing the British back in days.
Absolutely. I mean, they recently celebrated D-Day, where
Yes.
people went on a mission where they knew they would not come back. Hundreds of them knew that they would die, but they still went. As I say, the rest of us often have no clue what it takes to be a soldier. I happen to have been a cadet in secondary school. At that tiny level, I tasted it and I realized, oh boy, not be everybody. So, I mean, kudos to all the soldiers, all the police, all the people who are doing things, as you say, they're deployed. And sometimes they have to get there. They say, go and take over that place. There is no route. They have to create a bridge, create tunnels. They do what has to be done. So they are mission driven, and it is nothing but respect for the soldiers and the military and everybody else. Military, Navy, Army, all of them. They do a task that the rest of us have no clue, in most cases, what it must be like to do. Kudos to them on passing out. Let them understand that they are here to protect Nigerians, not persecute and punish Nigerians. So even when they interact with us, let them have the respect for the people that they're supposed to be protecting. And we on our part, anytime you have an opportunity to do something positive for a soldier and a policeman, do it. I think it'll improve our relationship with them, ultimately.
All right, let's look at the next headline. And this one is coming from the Leadership newspaper. Kaduna government spends 4 billion naira on school feeding.
In a bid to boost school enrollment, the Kaduna state government has said it's spending up to 4 billion naira each year on school feeding. It's taking the time to feed no less than 25,000 students in about 51 boarding schools across the 23 local government areas in the state. They used to allocate 540 per child per day, but they have upped it to 700 per child per day. And they said, among the positives, it has boosted school enrollment and daily attendance. And it has also stimulated local economies by sourcing food from local farmers and vendors. So by providing them a stable market and contributing to economic growth within the state. This is a win-win-win on all sides. They are not importing the food from some other country. They're empowering the local food farmers, suppliers, transporters, and producers. All this can only be good. And then at the core of it is that students are coming to school more. They maybe are being retained more. Now, we've talked in the past few weeks and months about the nutritional time bomb because children are eating properly because of the economic crisis. At least in this instance, we're hearing about children who are hopefully eating better than in some other places. So this is only kudos to the government. These are the kinds of priorities that I can get behind and praise to the high heavens. Education is the #1 gift you will give to a society that will allow it pull itself out of poverty. All those handouts to people and all that could be nice in the short term, but if you don't educate the mind, that money will be wasted. So kudos to the government. And this is the kind of thing I like to hear. And I want to hear more states doing that. That is 4 billion well spent annually, rather than spending it on ESTA code to government officials to go and attend one thing or the other abroad that they will basically sleep through.
All right, let's get on to our final paper and then we'll go over to the messages now. As we pick up this, the Punch newspaper is our final point, but this one sends a punch home to the United Nations now. Father's Day, Foundation decries UN's bias against men.
That came from the Punch newspaper.
And we didn't say Happy Father's Day to you, AB.
Thank you very much.
Happy Father's
Deeply
Day.
appreciated.
And to all the fathers out
happy
there.
Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Yes.
Yeah.
An NGO, Life After Abuse Foundation, has decried United Nations systemic gender bias against men, while urging it to commit more to promoting gender equality and recognition for men. As part of the story, they mention how there are at least 15 different days dedicated to women and girls. And yes, I know you're smiling. There's always one ladies' day, the Mother's Day,
Yeah.
and all that. And guess what? We applaud and appreciate the women in our lives and women all around us. That is not in doubt. But the NGO points out that in general, there is little or no attention paid to men side by side with women, and that men have their own issues, but it seems hypocritical that the United Nations has all sorts of days. I mean, they mention some of them. It's International Women's Day, International Girls' Day, International Day of the Girl Child, Women's History Month, International Women's Day of Peace and Disarmament, among others. Then we have the ones in the churches. Then we have the ones.
So
I mean,
Zibby can hear. Zibby, yes.
Yes,
So
I'm louding it. My mic is on. So the point, I mean, in all seriousness, they're just pointing out that side by side, this is not a reductionist thing where it is one or the other. Nobody is suggesting that all these days are not worthy of celebration, but they're pointing out that there is a major gap, and men's issues, whether it's a day or not, men's issues seem to get much shorter, much less attention, and they're just pointing it out and saying the United Nations should become responsible in that regard. The United Nations should also highlight the issues of men, which include, depression and all sorts of things that contribute to negative stereotypes, higher rates of suicide, homelessness, incarceration, among others. So I just thought that that was an interesting point to make on Father's Day, or around Father's Day, which happened yesterday, by the way. And it should be something we should be concerned with, because we all want women to soar. I was blessed with a completely transformative mother who was supported all the way by my magnificent father. So I've seen what the two working together can be, what excellence can emerge. But men's issues should also have the attention that women's issues deservedly have. I think this is a great thing to say. And I'm hoping that, we can look for the United Nations, but in and around you today, Zibby, do good to Omats right there in the studio with you, and every lady
Pat on the
around.
shoulder.
tell her.
Exactly. Every lady around, do something nice with the men around you. That shows them that they matter too in and around you. God bless you. And honestly, I thought that was a very important thing. Sometimes it seems as if it has gone so far in one direction. Again, I want to stress that every opportunity to celebrate women is appreciated and loved. It should also be extended to men. That's all. It's not one or the other.
Most especially when Father's Day is not among the top 20. Maybe just you find somewhere around 18 in the time in the
Or
rank
19.
in the order, or 19. But Mother's
men,
Day, after Christmas, Halloween. I was told Halloween ranks
many
even higher than
times more
Father's Day
important.
Oh,
in the
wow.
most celebrated
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
days.
Now, this is
Let
interesting
me tell
because
you.
okay, go ahead, AB.
Just last thing.
Yeah.
Many men, right, are not, it's lovely to be celebrated, but what most men want is appreciation. If you get appreciated, it can carry you many, many days. So that's just a thought.
Indeed. And here at Smooth, we're doing our bit to celebrate our men. In fact, last week, we spoke about the importance of June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're doing our bit here. So, yeah. Let's look at some of the messages we have coming through. OB says, all I want to say to Nigerians is maybe there's no need to waste prayers on the leaders because prayers cannot change them. It's time for them to start working. And we've been praying for how long? And these leaders keep getting worse. Gilbert Musa says, part of the challenge we have in Nigeria is the inability to upgrade our database of both private and public sector and the presence of weak institutions that encourage leakage of public funds. We equally need to hold leadership responsible and accountable for governance, particularly at the local government level.
And then comes in Ajayi Oloninlua from Magudu Jai Sherry said, well, it is incredulous to assert that the president did not create the current economic quagmire in which the country found itself. What with the twin policies of subsidy removal and floating of the naira that has triggered the worst inflation in history, not to talk about the bloated cabinet of the ministers contributing nothing to the economy. God help us. And then Biggie from K2 says, please don't off his mic, increase the volume more. I have been saying this every year that men are not celebrated enough. We need more days for men. Celebrate men. They matter. I celebrate Mother's Day once a year and it's okay. Help me, help men to appreciate, men to be appreciated and make them feel happy.
Indeed. And this is why, I think everyone celebrates men, maybe personally in their lives, the amazing men in their lives.
Yes,
maybe not as publicly.
It just went on. Ask most men the experience yesterday.
Lots of men were happy. Ebi has a big smile on his face. Ebi was happy.
There was a run on t-shirts and handkerchiefs.
Well, on that note, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your messages. And special thanks to our analyst this morning, AB Bozimo, for joining us.
Have a wonderful week ahead. God bless you all and take care. Bye now.
Agree, disagree.
Hit him up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.